All right. Today I am with Guy and Guy Maximo. He is based in London. He is an art advisor and has, lots of background, big background with art dealers, his family being in the business already, and a gallery business. And obviously you'll tell us more about what your background really entails. But I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because that, for artists listening in, there'll be so many gems, and we already had a little bit of a conversation. There will be so much value for artists to take away from here, especially around topics of, anything to do with galleries and applying to galleries and anything else that will come up in this conversation. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. So I guess, perhaps share a little bit more about what does what you are an art advisor. So what does that really entail, and how did you get to do this work?
But it's a good question because you hear a lot in the market, people calling themselves dealers, advisors, consultants, and and whatever titles are there. But I think essentially an art advisor, first and foremost, works directly with the client and for the client, right? That means I have no conflict of interest, or I can't have any conflict of interest when I engage the client. So, to give a very clear example, I can't own any artworks or offer any artworks that I own, because obviously I have a vested interest in selling what's mine. So obviously I wouldn't be a good advisor if I was trying to sell things that I own to a client that approached me for whatever service he requires. So I think, I would say the true definition of art advisor is someone that works directly with the client, for the client, with no conflict of interest whatsoever. So, the goal is to always find literally what's best for the client. So, it's a short description, but I think that's the fairest description in terms of what do you do for a client. But then, the service encompasses anything related to art. So not just, finding a suitable artwork, but anything from helping to ship and insure and, light and frames and anything related to the market, basically.
Right. Yes. So with I guess if you can run us through maybe how one of that relationship might look like. So an artist comes to you and or how does it look exactly, so that some people who maybe don't understand exactly the connections of, I guess, what the details of the works entail. So if you can.
Well, like I said, primarily my job is to be an art advisor, right? So what that means directly in terms of a working relationship, I work pretty much 100% of the times with private collectors, right? So I wouldn't be able, in that sense of the word, art advisor, to work with artists, because obviously the second an artist approaches me and then I'm offering the artist artwork, that means I have a vested interest in the artist's artwork. So then that beats the purpose of me being an art advisor. Obviously, there are, however, different instances when a client approaches me with a project that I then have the freedom to choose who I think is best for the client in terms of an artist. And then obviously the relationship that I have with artists, I'm able to approach them and then try and work together for a project, for a commission, or for existing stock, or whatever, whatever that might be in terms of the project. But that would kind of take me out a little bit of the art advisory side of things, and then would put me in a dealer kind of seat where I can negotiate a price with the artist or a commission or whatever. And I can then approach people directly to offer the artworks if there is a relationship with me and the artist primarily, right? So there are instances that I might know an artist or see an artwork that I'm interested in the art. And then aside from the advisory, I can actually create a project for an exhibition where I can then, call clients and friends and people in common that we can invite them to the exhibition with the intention to sell, or at least to promote the work. So, however it looks. But, as an advisor, my job is to work with private collectors. But then obviously I do have the side kind of jobs of approaching artists, relationship with artists, and even with other galleries as well. I do have other galleries, which I then operate more on a dealer base. When galleries approach me, that they have a specific client looking for a specific artwork, and I know where I might find their artwork, where I then become a broker, if you will, or a dealer, that I could then buy and resell it to the gallery, the artwork that they're looking for. So, there are many facets to what I can do. So I guess it really depends on the type of clients I'm engaging and, what kind of projects they're looking at, to be honest.
Yes. Amazing. Well, you'll be the perfect person to talk to and ask all kinds of questions about the ins and outs of how that really works. So if I'm thinking now about you working with art collectors, I'm already curious about, the differences of the art collectors and what, I guess, like what mainly they might be looking for, or what might be some themes, or I don't know, what do you find would be interesting to share about the work that you do with art collectors and what you're noticing, I guess, working with them and the kind of art that they are looking for? I mean, I'm sure that might be very diverse as well. So,
Well, I mean, it's a good question, right? And I always like to divide collectors or art buyers, right? The funny thing is not every collector likes to call themselves collectors. They just tell that they like to buy art and whatever. So funny story. But I like to divide them into three categories, basically. So the first category is a collector that knows absolutely nothing about art. He likes what he sees. He's keen to buy, but he has no clue how to buy, where to buy, why to buy it, or even how to build a collection or whatever you want to call it. So that client, I'll be the one helping from literally A to Z, from everything, from mainly educating the client why he needs to buy what he's buying, why he needs to spend what he's spending, why the market works the way it works, and why that whatever artwork means whatever it means. There really is a journey of educating the clients and making sure they understand every step of the process, because obviously you want it to be enjoyable as well. But first and foremost is a trusting relationship. They will come to me trusting me blindly with their money, and obviously they expect me to be professional in a way, what I offer to them, why I offer to them, and obviously offering the right things for the right budget and everything else. Then moving on, you have the second class of collector, which is the kind of like the connoisseur. He's bought before, he kind of knows what to expect in a transaction, but he's been buying mainly for fun. So he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just buying because he likes. So he doesn't yet understand the value of art, and if he's buying what he's buying has a good value, or if he's buying through the right galleries or whatever. And then obviously the last step would be the pros, the seasoned collectors, which in a way I'm not going to say is an easy job, because they're very picky. They know what they want. They're very knowledgeable. Essentially, you're there to fulfill, a task, if you will. So they know what they want. They just need your help to find it. And then if you find it, they just need your help to help them navigate, the ins and outs of negotiating, shipping, framing, or, does it make sense, or authenticity issues sometimes, depending on the kind of artworks you're dealing with, provenance. So those are like the scales of clients. And then you can also break those three categories into two, which is the pure collector and then the investor as well, which is something that I've been dealing more and more, these days. People want to spend the money and they want to know that they're spending the money wisely, meaning that not even about of making money, but, one of the main things about art is you buy something which costs a lot of money these days, and then you find out 10 years down the line when you want to sell it, is basically worthless. No one wants to touch it, So to use a very simple example, if you look at the average kind of price in these big commercial galleries, I'm not going to cite any names, but those high street galleries, you're pretty much paying between 15 to 30, 35,000 pounds for an artwork, which is a lot of money, you know.
Mm.
And a lot of the times you're just spending the money for the sake of spending, meaning that, you know, when you decided to sell or exchange for something, you find out that unfortunately you couldn't even get 2,000 pounds for it, you know. So more and more people ask me, how can I find the right artworks, and how can I understand the value of an artwork? And not because I want to make money, just because I want to buy the right thing, right? And I always like to compare when you're buying a car. You're not expecting to buy a car to make money, but you're expecting that you're going to make the right decision for your needs, the right side of the car, the right brands, the right features or whatever. So these are the kind of questions I get more and more now. Like, how can I buy art that actually has some value, right? And that enduring value that I know, love it. I'm not going to think about selling. But if one day my taste changes, which happens a lot, and I decide to move on, how can I get the value back and get something else in exchange or whatever? So,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow. While you were sharing, I have so many like, oh, that would be a good question. That would be a good question. But the last thing that now I'm curious about is actually what makes an artwork. How do you know, or what artwork will be valuable in the future and which one might not?
Good question as well. I mean, look, it's, you know, very similar to telling which stocks are going to go up and down, right? Meaning it's impossible. No one knows the future. Obviously, if I knew the future, it would be amazing, but you know, we don't. But obviously, there are elements that you're looking for in an artist's career that, you know, kind of like tell signs that you're making, you know, you're gearing towards making the right decisions, right? So you're looking at exhibition history, you're looking at residencies, you're looking at, I'm not going to even say, you know, like university diplomas or anything like that, because I truly believe if you're good in what you do, you don't need a high school or university. You can do it, you know, just practice, practice, practice. You can do it. But you look, you know, you look at things in the artist's career that is taking the artist more to the professional side of things rather than the amateur side of things, right? So if you look, for example, you know, if you go in those high street galleries and you look at artists' CVs, they rarely have any exhibition history. Oftentimes they'll have a lot of talent, right? Which doesn't mean that they have the talents or they don't have the talents that the artworks are not going to be good value. But oftentimes artists will have a very good, you know, talent, but obviously they have the wrong career direction in terms of who, you know, who they work with and who helps them to get there. So usually these artists will sign with those commercial high street galleries, which means that the sole job is to just sell, right? So they're just making money for the sake of making money. They don't necessarily have a story to tell, or they don't necessarily have a meaning to paint or create or form a body of work. They're just going to paint what the gallery tells them to paint because it's selling, it's making money, and that's what matters, right? And on the other hand, if you look at artists that have a very strong career path and growth in value, you're looking at artists that are looking for meaningful relationship with galleries. They're looking to, you know, grow their exhibition history, expanding themselves, trying to exhibit, even in small galleries, right? You know, no one's going to start exhibiting in a Gagosian, for example, but you look for small, well-connected galleries that, you know, have a very strong collectors base and they're very well connected with the market. Sometimes they show in local art fairs, which are very important, you know, features for you to be seen. So you try and base yourself in those kinds of signs. You know, I'm not going to say to choose because it's a strong word, but to kind of like guide yourself towards that kind of, you know, career path. And then obviously then comes taste, right? You buy because you like it. You know, if you're purely buying because you're trying to make money, I guarantee you lose money. But if you buy because you like and you understand why you're buying and how you're buying, it's a safe bet, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess even like from the artist's perspective now, coming from the point of view of, okay, if I'm an artist and I want to be represented by a gallery, actually like being educated on the choices of what kind of gallery, that it seems very important to know, like, okay, do I just want to sell and I don't care about my, or I don't know if I'm putting it right now, but I don't really mind so much whether I'm going to be painting what I want, or maybe painting series and growing and expanding as an artist, and then maybe a commercial gallery would be more suitable. But if I really want to create a career and be like, yeah, build good connections and good collective basis and actually paint what I want. Is this how I'm getting it? Like that there should be a choice, or that the artist ideally should be educated on, I guess, anyway, about the galleries that they're applying to and why. And I don't know, you tell me, like, what would what would an artist need to think about?
Well, I think, I think it's a fair point. And I think, the artist will literally need to ask, themselves a question like, what kind of artist do I want to be? Do I actually want to be an artist that has something to tell? Do I actually want to be an artist that has a story or has a project, a plan, a path I want to follow? Or, simply not a problem. Do I just want to make money? Right? It basically, it differentiates what I like to call, artists from artisans, right? You're still an artist. There's nothing wrong in being, in crafts or being an artisan. The only difference, you're just creating things to sell, right? Like someone that creates someone that creates pottery or glassworks. They're still artists, but they chose a different path for them to sell, which means that they'll have a different clientele, different value as well in the artworks. Are there artists that started in the commercial galleries and went on to become serious artists? Absolutely. But they also had something to tell, and their body of work evolved as they grew and learned as well. Sometimes you do learn with bad experiences. Sometimes you will sign with horrible galleries, but that will teach you a lesson as well. And that's part of your growth, part of your journey. But I think I see a lot of people, which is very normal as well, no issues with that at all. There's a lot of people that don't really know what they want to do. So they just do whatever they think they should be doing, which is fine. Look, like anything in life, you're going to learn with your mistakes, right? There is no such thing as learning with your success. No one learns with the successes. They learn with mistakes, because obviously that means you're not going to repeat it, you're going to improve it, and you're going to do better. So I think every artist is entitled to kind of like search their own path and their own way to become what they want to become. And there's nothing wrong with selling for the sake of making money. Like we all have bills to pay. We all
Absolutely
like money. We live in a capitalist world. So nothing wrong with it. It's just a matter of you deciding where you want to be, and you looking for paths that will take you to where you want to be, right? Making the right moves and the right decisions, basically.
Right. Yeah. So like I'm thinking now, for example, it could be a game plan of like maybe in order to make money, I don't know if it even is a faster path or not, but having a commercial being represented by a commercial, and then that being a building block for another gallery. I don't know if that thought just makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then,
absolutely.
And I'm thinking about the contracts of galleries, how easy or possible is it then to do that? Like, let's say you go into a commercial gallery, what might be some of those terms that they put? Because I remember we have had a conversation about having to be mindful as well of contracts and how easy it might be to then say, okay, this has been great, this is now I've kind of build some momentum here, and now I'm really wanting to focus on a different kind of gallery that will help me to spend more.
Well, I think the number one trap that I'm not even going to just say artists, like everyone, right, looking for a job, let's say, they fall for it, is to just say yes to everything at first without even flinching or thinking or challenging. I'd say that the number one advice I'll give to anyone looking to get into this market, whether you're an artist, a dealer, a consultant trying to work for galleries or whatever, like always look for what's best for you, right? And sometimes that might mean that you're just gonna have to have, the courage to say, this is not good enough for me. I'm just gonna say no to this contract or to this job because it's just not the right thing. Like I will be giving a lot of myself, a lot of my time, a lot of my qualities, and I'm not getting, a fair amount of money or recognition or time or whatever it is that you value back, right? So for artists, the way that looks is, galleries will approach them and then they'll come with this amazing proposal that at first you're going to say, this is the most amazing thing that could ever happen to me. But then, be careful. That could be a trap. You could be stuck in a contract for 10, 15, 20 years or, an exclusive contract, which might not be beneficial to you, So what do you actually want to do with your art and how do you actually see yourself working with galleries? And this is very important as well. How do you see yourself? What is the ideal relationship that you want to have with galleries? Do you want to have one gallery in each continent? Do you want to have one gallery that globally represents you? Or do you want to have, a kind of like an independent relationship with the gallery that you're just supplying artworks in consignment, so you don't really have any strings attached? So just be careful to don't just jump at first in whatever they offer you, because that might be a really bad thing for you. Because remember, it might be the start of your career, but it might come a point that you're very experienced and your vision changed, your taste changed, your experience changed, and then when you try to get out of that contract, you're stuck forever. So and unfortunately galleries can be quite nasty, and they sometimes have the money to have lawyers and threaten you with lawsuit. It's very, very nasty sometimes. So I'll just say, be careful. If you have the means and the ability to consult with a lawyer, do so. Or if you have friends in the market and you should be hearing second opinions, what they think, don't be shy to ask. This is not a race. This is not a judging game. It's just like the more advice you can get, the better decision is going to be for you. So
yeah, and I think like what you mentioned as well is like about not giving into that fear of nothing else will come again. And I think that can be sometimes the thing that holds people with, finally,
absolutely,
this big thing, and
absolutely,
don't want to lose it.
Trust the universe. Always trust the universe.
Yeah.
There's always something for you. Just believe it. Keep working. Keep doing what you do. Go out, see as many other artists as you can. Go to auction houses. Go to art fairs. Go to university graduation. End of year graduations and things. So just see as much as possible. See what's selling as well.
Yes.
It might be that you're stuck in this, this kind of like this creative block, and you just doing something that might not be good for you and that galleries might not be seeing with good eyes. But then there's a world out there of opportunities for you to learn and get inspired and see what's selling. And I know examples as well of artists that are really talented, but they stick to their guns in terms of what they want to paint, but it's not necessarily what galleries are looking for in that particular time, right? And one thing I mentioned in the beginning is that sometimes commercial galleries will just tell you what to do. Don't get me wrong, big galleries, big institutional galleries like Gagosian and Hauser and Worth and Pace and and others, they will tell you what to paint as well. They will tell you collectors are looking for this and that, but that doesn't mean you don't have the freedom to create. It just means that they're helping you to create more things to sell as well. So at the end of the day, they everyone wants to make money. So just there is a balance between making money and selling yourself to what the taste is demanding at the time.
What do you think would be a reason why an artist, maybe it's a good idea for them not to apply to a gallery as well? Because I mean, there's so much opportunity right now as well with online selling. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on, what an artist might benefit from deciding, like even maybe if it's against a gallery.
Well, look, I think again, it will depend on what the artist wants to achieve. I've met so many people through Instagram that are literally selling hundreds of thousands of pounds of artworks every year, and they have zero gallery representation, right? But at the same time, what they need to understand is every time an artist like that approaches me to offer stuff for my clients would say no to that, because my clients are looking for established names, for gallery names, for exhibition history. So, it comes back to what we're saying, if you just want to sell it because you want to make money, fine, nothing wrong with it. But a gallery will most certainly give you all the tools that you need, right? Most of the times, if you're lucky enough to get a nice gallery, they will pay for all the the logistics for you, all the paintings to transport to whatever the gallery is exhibiting. That entices insurances as well, paying technicians. It's a very expensive operation. And most importantly, a gallery will help you price the artwork correctly as well. So, the gallery will give you a pool of collections that they already have. So that's taking the job out of your hands. The gallery will do the selling, which obviously the vast majority of artists can't really sell their own artwork. And, it's a natural thing. The gallery will give you, the benefit of, a vast knowledge and experience in how to do some things, how to tackle some problems, or they'll open doors for you for sure, and they'll, most importantly, you get seen as well through their marketing campaigns, emails, Instagram, social media channels or whatever. So there are more benefits of having a gallery than negatives, essentially. So it's just how you conduct yourself in business with the gallery and how they can help you to grow your name, basically. Because, ultimately you want to become a brand as well, so, but a gallery will literally walk a long way for you to get you there.
Wonderful. So it brings me to the question of, like, let's say whether that's commercial galleries or the more, how do you call them? High-end
institutional galleries.
Institutional galleries, thank you. When an artist applies to be represented by them, what might be, like, what makes them open the application? What makes them actually be like, okay, this is what I'm interested in? What might be some, between all those galleries, something that, all of them would find important when an artist applies to them, that is just non-negotiable?
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? And I'm not going to say I like and I approve the method and how they choose artists, but at the same time, I understand why they do it. So one of the biggest barriers that artists face these days, and pretty much have always been the case, is that probably 95% of all galleries won't really accept submission. And most galleries will have a department that takes care of finding artists, basically, kind of like an artist program management and kind of like that. So those people will be, curators or art historians with a lot of knowledge and understanding on the market, and taste and quality as well, good eyes. And usually they will look for the artists that they want to have in their programs, right? Which obviously is a bad news for the artists trying to apply for galleries. But the number one thing that you need to be doing as an artist, since approaching galleries directly won't work, is networking. Just go out to as many gallery openings as possible, meet as many dealers as possible, collectors, or remember, you only need one, right? You only need one good collector, you only need one good dealer, you only need one good advisor to help you open the doors as well. So, but like with any job in any area, you know, anywhere in the world, if you nail the networking part of things, it will certainly help you get a long way, and it will certainly help you to get to be seen as
Mm.
well,
Mm.
right? There's still galleries accepting applications or through residencies or whatever, you know, how they do it indirectly, I'd say, but unfortunately, not everyone is open to accept direct applications. And look, I understand, you know, so they're busy enough selling, exhibiting, looking for artists. And certainly, trust me, if you open the applications, it will be flooded. You won't even be able to see
Right.
it, you know. It's just the nature of the beast, but you know, it is what it is, unfortunately. So you just have to be smart how you target those galleries,
Mm.
you know, and how you find the door that will open for you to get there, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So the power of networking and building those
absolutely,
relationships is, yeah,
absolutely.
makes absolute sense. In terms of like residencies, like how would they, yeah, how does it work then for artists? Because that is
Well, usually
kind of open.
that's a more, you know,
Question.
so that's more like a good news kind of thing. So
Yeah.
usually, you know, there are hundreds of ways for you to get into a residency. You can apply for a residency. You can be recommended for a residency. Usually, galleries will send you to a residency directly. If you're represented by them, they'll pay, you know, for everything. Sometimes, which I think, you know, they're quite fun. There are a lot of artist-led residencies as well. Basically, just a bunch of artists that get together and, you know, there you go, it's a residency. You learn from each other and you exchange ideas and techniques and, you know, whatnot. So just Google it, you know, just Google it, see what's out there, see what's being offered to you. You know, I'd say one of the things that will hurt you the least is residencies. You can do any residency you want. Obviously, there are the more coveted one and the least ones, but any residency will be, you know, will be beneficial to you, right? You're only learning from other, you know, from your peers.
Yeah.
So just apply to all of them, you know, go and look at residencies, speak to museums, speak to galleries. You know, art fairs will always have stuff that artists can apply to as well in terms of, you know, programs and talks and things like that. So,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
most of the times that's when, you know, you get offered. Private museums as well will offer a lot of residencies as well. They love, you know, they invest a lot of money into artists and programs. So it's always a good bet as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very good. That's very good news. So like, if let's talk about the your art collectors that you are in conversations with all the time, obviously in business and working with, and they come to you, and you mentioned that they wouldn't probably be very interested in somebody who's not represented by a gallery, but if for example, artists created their own exhibitions and have like a background of having created their own exhibitions and then maybe residencies, does that change their outlook on them, or is it very gallery representation heavy?
Look, you know, again, like it's not a bad thing, right? But we are living in a day and age in the market that the cheapest artworks in commercial galleries is already very expensive, right? Sometimes, you know, people don't realize how much it costs for you to buy a new artist in a big gallery and buy a new artist in a commercial gallery. And you know, the gap is massive, right? Like a commercial gallery will sell you stuff ranging between 30 to 100, 150,000 pounds, right? If you were to walk up to a Gagosian, for example, buying a painting from a relatively new up and coming artist, you're not going to pay less than 250, 300,000 pounds, you know, which is a massive price. So this is why I say, like, even in a commercial gallery, price is already very expensive for you pay 30, 40, 50,000 pounds. So there is also a careful consideration for the artist because the artist will have to spend money to create his own exhibition, right? So then how much money are you charging for your artwork that can be fair for you, that you can make your money back and you can also profit, but at the same time, to be a fair price because you're not represented by any other galleries, right? So there is a balance that you need to be careful when you price your own artwork and you're trying to sell your own artwork and you're not coming across as just someone trying to sell it, as a salesperson. So, I encourage artists to do it because, it's a lesson for them in how hard it is to have a gallery and how tough the business is, right? You have to remember that, galleries are one of the worst cash flow businesses in the planet. And that's why so many galleries close their doors every single year. It's an insane, turnaround of businesses closing, their doors every single year in galleries because there's not enough cash. You need cash to pay the rent, you need cash to pay the staff, bills, and everything else. So there's a tough business. It's a very tough business, and business. That's why galleries sometimes have a sweet spot in pricing artwork in a way that it's fair for everyone and they can still make money. So again, go out there, try something crazy. Go crazy, but just be careful because it's a tough business. It's a very tough business.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned that when you speak to the different type of collectors that come to you, that you also share with them what the art market is like. Actually, right in the beginning, I was like having the question, what is the art market like right now? What might you be saying towards that? I'm sure it's a very broad subject, but
well, I mean, in what sense do you ask? Do you ask economically or the ecosystem, or like in what way?
I don't actually know, but we could maybe section it in. Like, what's the art market like when somebody like one of those collectors comes to you, and then you are educating them a little bit about what the market is like what might be some of those questions or those things that you ask them in order to figure out what to tell them about the art market. Maybe that's more of the question.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about, let's say, educating a client, obviously the first thing you mention is the ecosystem, right? And how does the art market work, and what areas of the market are there, and how do they communicate and work? So, you talk about, obviously, there isn't an art market without the artists in the first place. So obviously the artists are not in a bad way, in a bad connotation. They're the very bottom of the pyramid, but the very bottom is very good because that means it's a foundation for the art market, right? So that's how the whole market starts with the artists, which then moves to galleries, right? Which are the responsible for finding those artists and representing those artists. That then moves on to the critics who are reviewing that, those artists and those galleries, those exhibitions, which then moves to the collectors, right? On the almost top of the pyramid, but then the very, very top of the pyramid is reached by museums, right? Meaning that once an artist gets into a museum, that's the ultimate kind of, establishment you can have for your artwork. You can say, listen, I've been through every step of the market. I've been recognized by galleries, by critics, by dealers, by collectors, and I am now effectively in a museum collection or in a museum exhibition, right? So that's roughly, without going into much detail, because we could stay here for 3 hours.
Yeah, of course.
That's the broad art market. And then obviously you do have, between galleries and collectors, you also have the auction houses as well. Very important, to create and establish a secondary market. But that's how you kind of like you set the grounds to explain how each step of the pyramid works, and and whys and why not. So you try to explain the pricing and price versus value, the differences, and how you establish value, how you find good artists, how you train your eyes to see quality as well, and then which galleries to look for, which museums to go to, or kind of that's how I lay the groundwork to my clients to understand what I'm doing basically, and then those areas that I'm going to look for and how I'm going to find the artworks for them and make sure it's the right thing and everything basically.
Yes, yes.
In a
Well,
nutshell.
yeah, no, thank you so much for giving me that overview. I guess like
Yeah.
there was a question pending, and now that's kind of like what I guess wanted to hear. One more question. I mean, if you still have some time, there's still a couple of questions, and I also love to know about the art. If somebody is listening in and is an art collector or one of the starting art collectors, let's say, or interested in it, how they might get started. But before that, I was curious about like, are you noticing a theme about like what kind of art is bought more or more interested in when they come to you?
Well, I mean, it's and probably the last couple of years, 2 to 4 years, let's say, there is a big trend in buying, people looking for abstract art.
Mm-hmm.
Now there is a kind of like a shift to like more figurative / abstract, kind of like the like Cecil Brown kind of thing, kind of George Condo, for example. So, obviously it does work in trends, I'd say. But at the same time, those established artists will always be established. There'll always be a market for, there'll always be a market for impressionists. There'll always be a market for, post-war. And, so I'd say the rule number one is don't really follow trends. Buy what you like. Buy what you like and buy what you can afford in the first place, right? The number one is when people come to me, I want to buy art. Obviously, the question is, how much money do you have, right? Because I want to buy art is a very broad question. It's like I want to buy a house. I want to buy a car. Yeah, but you can buy a car from as little as £500 and as much as 4 million, whatever.
Yeah.
Or even more, classic collectibles and stuff. So have a budget, then think of a taste, then everything else comes, then because with the budget, we're going to find the right artist and the right names at the right price point at the right time in their careers, or even the right medium, Sometimes you want to collect blue chip arts, but you don't have the money to buy an original. But you can buy limited edition prints. You can buy an Andy Warhol for £20,000, £50,000, or you can buy Damon Hirst for £12,000. You don't necessarily have to spend 5 million, 8 million, 200,000. So
Makes sense. Wow. Well, this has been so great. Like I've had so many questions come up for me with so much curiosity, and you've just shared so much value. I really appreciate it. I'm sure that the listeners also really appreciate it. So what, I guess, as a final sort of question, like how might people work with you, and also like what would be your final sort of words of wisdom for, I'm going back to the artists, for them on their journey of becoming an artist? What would you want to, I'm leaving it very open, to share with them as your most?
Yeah, well, look, I'd say me personally, obviously I'm always open to meet people, right? Before anything, before you're an artist, before you whatever, I'm always keen to meet people. And that's one of the greatest things in life. Life, you share experiences, knowledge, culture, language, and everything. So, for artists to work with me, I'm always open to see their things, and if they can take criticism and can take honesty, happy to give them my opinion. I'm always honest in a way that if you approach me and I can't work for you, I will tell you if I can't work with you. But also the same way, if I know someone that might be able to work with you, I'll always point you in the right direction. So it doesn't hurt for me to make friends and meet people and try and help in any way I can. But I'd say the biggest thing is, number one, experience as much as you can, right? In every area of the market, like see as much as you can. talk to as many people as you can in the market. Go to auction houses. They're free, by the way. Don't be shy. Don't be intimidated. Literally, all you have to do is just walk in. There's no ticket. You don't have to book tickets. There's no fees. You literally just get to the door and you walk up. Don't need to look anyone in the eye. Just walk up. You're going to see amazing art. You're going to see an incredible atmosphere. You're going to literally see people with a lot of money around you, and that will give you inspiration. You're going to look at around, the walls of what's selling. So go to Christie's, go to Sotheby's, go to Phillips, Bonhams, the main big ones. So see as much as possible, experience as much as possible, learn as much as possible. And then number two, which is, I think, I understand, the why, but it's painful, but you have to be seen as well. You have to be seen. You have to use your social media non-stop. You have to use your Instagram. You have to use your LinkedIn. You have to use your Twitter, whatever you use, TikTok, whatever you use these days, you have to exhaust every single channel, because this is how galleries are seeing artists. This is how collectors are seeing artists. This is how dealers are discovering, new artists as well and approaching artists. And at the end of the day, if you don't want to be with a gallery, this is also how collectors are buying directly from artists. So learn everything you have to learn, see, experience, and be seen. Be seen as much as you can. Remember, you're going to try a lot, but you only need one. You literally only need one. You need one collector, one right dealer, one right gallery, and then that's it. They'll do the rest for you.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's
Amazing.
it.
Thank you so much. Really, it's been a pleasure. And yeah, I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Really pleasure to be here, and then fun to talk, about it sometimes. Sometimes you're so stuck in the market, you don't really talk about it, but
Yeah.
it's nice to let it out a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm gonna pause here.